Latin America and the Caribbean form a diverse sub-region of the Americas, comprising of over 20 countries, all of varying tongues, peoples, and cultures. On October 30th, 2014, Trinidad and Tobago had the distinct honor of opening the 6th Latin American and Caribbean Regional Meeting, which focused on international trade single windows within the area. The meeting was organized by the Latin America and Caribbean Economic System, commonly known as SELA, in collaboration with the Ministry of Trade, Industry, Investment, and Communications. SELA is a regional intergovernmental organization representing 28 Latin American and Caribbean countries, whose main objectives are to provide a system of consultation for the adoption of common positions and strategies on economic issues, as well as to foster cooperation among its membership. The aim of the two-day consultation was to encourage greater regional consultation, coordination, and dialogue when addressing current issues within the region, with a specific focus on the area of foreign trade single windows. Additionally, it provided a space for sharing successful experiences and achievements made in the region as it pertains to foreign trade single windows.
Our aim is to integrate our systems and to improve trade using these single trade windows. At the conceptual level, what we would like to do is improve our operability with our pilot program in terms of these single electronic windows. In terms of practical application, we are continuing to work within the Latin American group in terms of the operability of these systems and working to harmonize the technologies that we have within the region and in the Caribbean in terms of interoperability, operability, and improving the system within our pilot countries. This is our aim, working from government to government, and our focus within this Latin American group in terms of our single windows for international trade. It is our aim to include elements such as international trade windows, international trade port windows, and an integrated system which can offer a paperless system and offer us opportunities to improve our operability and our international trade.
Senator the Honorable Vasant Barath, Minister of Trade, Industry, Investment and Communications, and Minister in the Ministry of Finance and the Economy, delivered the feature address of the opening ceremony, where he spoke about the government's thrust towards the diversification of the economy and similarities between SELA and the MTIIC's focus on creating an enabling environment for facilitating the ease of doing business for local and foreign investors.
You've come to Trinidad and Tobago at a time of great hope, though, of course, coupled with certain uncertainties in the world market. You come to Trinidad and Tobago, and I was saying at a function that I attended last night, at a time when Trinidad and Tobago has always been dependent on the energy sector, the oil sector, oil and gas sector for its revenues predominantly. Indeed, 50% of the revenues of Trinidad and Tobago have been derived from the energy sector, and in fact, 80% of our exports are in that area also. And as a result, over the years, what tends to happen is that in many other areas of the economy, you tend to have a level of complacency, coupled hand in hand with a significant amount of bureaucracy that develops. And so therefore, it makes it very difficult when you attempt to move away from that position 30, 40, 50 years later, which is what we're attempting to do, to make it easy to do business. And I think that's why this forum is so important, and also the forum, and also the work that you've been doing with regard to making business easier. The work that we have embarked upon at the Ministry of Trade over the last 4 years is primarily to ensure that we make it easier to do business, and that we have attempted to create an enabling environment whereby government creates that environment, but the private sector is the engine of growth. Nevertheless, we've made significant advancements in completely automating certain aspects so that we make the flow of documentation a lot easier. So for example, TT BizLink, which is our single electronic window, now allows for certificates of origin for exports to all of the CARICOM region, for Cuba, Venezuela, Colombia, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, and several other non-preferential markets, to all have these certificates made available online and processed, in fact, within several minutes, as opposed to days, which is what it took. More than 90%, and I'm giving you some examples here of the work of the single electronic window, more than 90% of the various import and export licenses from the regulatory agencies that are required, Chemistry, Food and Drug Division, the Bureau of Standards, the Ministry of Trade itself, plant quarantine and animal quarantine, are now available online. Shipping agents in Trinidad and Tobago can now prepare and submit vessel pre-arrival and pre-departure declarations electronically to several agencies that require this information. For example, the port, the immigration departments, the Ministry of Health, and the Maritime Services Division. And very importantly, there's one aspect that came on board only a few weeks ago, and that is the single electronic window now allows customs brokers and customs clerks to electronically receive online endorsements from all of the other regulatory agencies. Well, today we now have a situation where that information is fed into the Assecura system and is fed electronically across to all of those regulatory agencies within the space of seconds. And so therefore you can have endorsements come back to you within the space of just a few minutes as opposed to a few days. And so therefore that has cut down considerably on the time frame and of course subsequently cut down on the costs. Since we started the reform process in 2010, and more aggressively so I would suggest in the last 24 months, we've seen a number of reductions as far as time frames are concerned. A good example is having started a business in Trinidad and Tobago, and up until a couple of years ago it would have taken you 43 days to actually get a business started in Trinidad and Tobago because of all of the regulatory processes that needed to have gone through. Today we've brought that down to 3 days from 43 days, and I think you would agree that that is quite a significant reduction. And what we've done is we've actually gone to Parliament and amended certain laws to be able to accommodate that, but also we've cut out a number of processes that was always done because they've always been done, if you know what I mean. And we've now been able to justify taking those processes up because they added no value either to the ministry or the government nor to the end user. We've also started introducing port scanners at the port. We've now introduced our first scanner, which is a relocatable scanner at the port in Port of Spain, that will allow Customs and Excise to have a look at the contents of a container non-invasively and only divert or stop that container if there's reason to for national security reasons. We've also proclaimed the Bankruptcy and Insolvency Act 2006, and this has now allowed organizations and corporate entities to restructure their business rather than going into insolvency. So, as I close, let me express my ministry's sincerest appreciation to SELA for allowing Trinidad and Tobago to host this extremely important meeting. We hope that the logistical arrangements that we've put in place, together with SELA, of course, for this program, will result in greater integration amongst our member states and ultimately the well-being of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago.
With the successful opening of the 6th Latin American and Caribbean regional meeting, representatives of over 15 member states can look forward to productive discussions on how each country can contribute to making the region more unified through the use of trade single windows.